Welcome to Reaching Out. Our very special guest for this segment is Daniel Dromm, councilman from Queens. Daniel, welcome to Reaching Out.
Oh, thank you. It's great to be here.
By the way of introduction to our audience, you have a long, distinguished career as a teacher before being elected to the city council. Please tell us about that.
Sure. I was a New York City public school teacher for 25 years. Before being elected, I taught fourth grade for 18 of those 25 years. And then I was a social studies cluster teacher, which meant that I moved around from classroom to classroom and taught a social studies lesson. But even before that, I was the director of a daycare center, the Grant Houses Daycare Center on 125th Street and Amsterdam Avenue from 1978 until 84. So I got a lot of my community organizing experience up there in Harlem, and daycare in those days was a lot more than just babysitting. It was a whole bunch of social services that were provided to the community as well. And so I spent 31 years on a daily basis with kids every single day.
That's interesting because we represent the New York City public housing, and Grant Houses is one of the developments there up in Harlem on 125th. So probably you service many of our members' children. So
sure,
thank
absolutely.
you for that.
Absolutely. It was a great experience being up there. And the current director, Willistine Moore, is somebody that I worked with, and she took over after I left, and so she's carried on the tradition as well up there.
Is there something that lured you out of the classroom and away from the children in the traditional sense?
Well, I went into politics because education was my passion. And I began to realize that everything that's done in education has a political connection. So from curriculum to funding, it all depends on political decisions. The decisions that were made up in Albany last week by the governor in regard to charter schools and the state budget and the CFE money that the city has been owed are political decisions that are being made. And so, after having been in the classroom for 25 years, I thought that I could have a broader or wider effect on children in New York City if I went into the political system itself, where I thought I could affect change. I think that really, if you want to affect change, you've got to affect the political structure, and that's why I decided to run for office.
There's so much talk about not having enough for children. Now we have the universal pre-K that was just passed. The debate on charter schools. What is your view on what's going on with education in New York City?
Sure. If you look around and you see the surrounding districts, the students in the areas around New York City have a lot more than New York City public school students. They have classrooms, beautifully decorated. They have carpeted hallways. They have swimming pools, on Long Island and Westchester and areas like that. My predecessor, Robert Jackson, was a great man. He walked from Harlem all the way up to Albany to make a point that New York City wasn't getting its fair share of tax dollars. That campaign was called the Campaign for Fiscal Equity. And what it was about the city getting its fair share of tax dollars. It took almost 20 years for that campaign to come to fruition. And when it finally did, it involved a lawsuit and trying to force the legislature to give New York City the dollars that it was owed. Still to this day, we don't have the money. We were promised money in the past, but we feel that today we're owed over $4 billion in funding from the state. And that's something that the governor did not address in his budget, or those CFE dollars. That's something we need desperately in New York City.
Who promised the money to New York State?
Well, there was a court decision, and then part of that court decision said that the state had to give...
New York City, right?
Yeah. The state said that New York City had to, that the state had to give New York City a certain amount of dollars. Part of that money really did come down to the city, but also a large part did not. And the money that came down in the past during the Bloomberg administration was used to supplement the city budget at that time. So we've never really gotten the benefit of having the additional dollars. And today we feel we are owed about $4 billion, that's billion with a B in it, dollars. And that would make a huge difference in terms of the education budget.
Our members include 5,000 school safety agents, and they do a great job in the New York City public school system. And you mentioned lawsuits. This is Pay Equity Month. I'm going to give it a month. Pay Equity Month for women. And the President of the United States in his radio address, his television address, addressed the issue of pay equity and fairness for women to be paid the same as a man in the workplace. New York City now has the largest pay equity discrimination case in the country going on. 5,000 school safety agents, 70% whom are women, Black and Latina, are paid $7,000 less than their counterparts here in New York City alone. Our current mayor, speaking of promises, when he was running as a candidate, there was a mayoral forum at Pace University hosted by the National Organization of Women. He emphatically promised to settle the lawsuit immediately. He said it was a no-brainer. I'm paraphrasing it. There are radio ads running about it, and there are radio spots with his voice on it and footage with his face saying that he would settle the lawsuit and be a champion for school safety agents. What do you think when you hear that the mayor has yet to keep his promise, and here we are in Pay Equity Day?
Well, sure. First, let me start off by saying that I agree. Our school safety agents do a great job in our schools. I knew them, and I know them still. I interact with them all the time when I go into buildings, and they're doing a great job. Our school safety agents deserve pay equity, and I urge the mayor to settle this lawsuit as soon as humanly possible. It's not right that women school safety agents make less than other security-type personnel around the city. It's an inequity that needs to be corrected, and I urge the mayor to move forward on this lawsuit, to settle it, and to get people the money that they're rightfully due.
With so much talk about universal pre-K, share with us how you think this program will work and how it will be rolled out this fall.
Well, so far I've been hearing some really good things from the communities. The mayor rolled out a few thousand seats about 2 weeks ago, 1,200 of which are going to be in Queens, with the borough that I represent. We desperately need these seats. I happen to represent two of the most overcrowded school districts in New York City, District 24 and District 30. We do have a concern that there will be enough seats in those two districts because we don't have any place to put those kids in public schools. So what the mayor has begun to talk about is to look for community-based organizations, or CBOs, to place those students in those places. So we also are a little bit concerned about converting half-day PreK seats into full-day, because let's say you start out with 150 half-day. If you have those same seats in the same building and you make them full day, you're only going to be able to support 75. So we need to make sure that districts like District 24, District 30, District 20 in Coney Island get their share of those seats. That's where we need it the most, probably. So we are in the process of looking for seats. There will be, I think, another RFP coming out soon. I'm hoping that will happen, so that CBOs who did not apply in the past will be able to apply now to take up that gap in the number of seats that we see moving forward. Now today, I think the chancellor and the mayor announced that they're also going to do pay equity, talk about pay equity, but they're going to bring the salaries of the teachers in the CBOs close to the salaries of the teachers in the public school system. So I believe it would bring it up to about $44,000, and I believe the starting salary for a teacher in the DOE is about $46,000 at this point. My numbers could be just a little bit off on that, but that's basically what's happening. I do believe that we need to have good salaries, as we do for our school safety agents as well, because you want to attract the best to the system, and you want to attract professional people that are responsible, and a salary is a big part of that, and that's why this issue, even with pay equity, is vitally important. You need to pay people well. In some ways, you get what you pay for, and we need to have well-trained staff in all parts of the Department of Education, from teachers to school agents, to school safety agents, to cafeteria workers. These are people who are highly trained, who work with children on an individual basis, who know them, who know how to work with students, and that's why I believe very much in paying people fair shares.
That word pay equity just came up again. I find it hypocritical right now that he would discuss pay equity for pre-K teachers when he promised that he would settle a lawsuit for school safety agents. So that's just another illustration of the mayor dragging his feet, because you're going to open up discussions with an organization and a group who did not sue you and did not ask for the pay equity, and all of a sudden you're just going to give it to them when you promised the National Organization of Women that you would settle the school safety agents lawsuit immediately. I just want to know, what is his definition of immediately?
Right. We need to move forward on that, and I agree with you. I think that the mayor should move forward and settle that lawsuit. It's vitally important to our school safety agents. There's no doubt about that.
Tell us about your work in the New York City school system, in the New York City Council on the Education Committee.
Sure. So, prior to being elected as the chairperson of the Education Committee in the City Council, I was the chair of the Immigration Committee, an issue of major importance to me as well, especially because of the district that I represent, which is about 68% immigrant. But those two issues are overlapping. So, education is important to all New Yorkers, but it's also very, very important to our immigrant communities. So I look at this as an opportunity to move forward with ideas that I had about education that actually contrast with the former mayor's ideas. I believe that education should be cooperative and collaborative rather than competitive. I have concerns about some of the charter networks, for example, those who are making huge sums of money off of our children. These are issues of major concern to me. I believe that we need to bring the arts back into education. This is something that has been lacking because of the overemphasis on testing and the wrong use of testing. Using tests to evaluate teachers and to evaluate administrators or give schools grades is something that I feel is contradictory to what my beliefs are and what education should be about.
Now, what do you mean by the disparity in the way the charter schools are run when you say making huge sums of money off our children? Because I don't think a lot of our listeners understand what you're talking about when you say making large sums of money with our off of children.
Sure. So in New York City, charter schools are nonprofit organizations. They're not run as a business per se, although there is a business model that they follow, but they're not a for-profit organization. But yet, even though they're nonprofits, the directors, the CEOs as they call them, get the wording of that as well, make $400,000 and above, sometimes $500,000, $550,000. That's double or even more than double what the mayor is making. That's double what the chancellor is making. I don't know why people need to make those types of salaries. Now, they'll argue that that money comes out of their own fundraising budget. It's separate from what the city gives them to operate these schools. But to me, that is not right. In one case where you have Eva Moskowitz, who is the executive of the Success Academies, her husband also makes $200,000 off of the charter networks. So you're talking about $750,000 in one family based on the business model of charter schools. That's what's wrong. Now, I don't oppose all charter schools.
No, I'm listening, yeah.
I have a good charter school in my district. It's a unionized charter school also, but they are basically what charter schools should be. They are an incubator for good ideas. And originally, when charter schools were brought in, they were to relieve administrators of some of the rules and regulations around the DOE, bring these good ideas in and share them with other public schools. What has not happened is the sharing of those ideas, and people looking at charter schools as an opportunity to privatize and corporatize the public education system. We need a strong, solid, good public system. We don't need two separate systems. To me, what has happened in the Cuomo budget is that we're creating a system that is separate and unequal, and to me, it amounts to academic apartheid.
Unfortunately, that's all the time we have for this segment of Reaching Out. I'm Gregory Floyd. Our very special guest was Councilman Daniel Dromm, the chair of the Education Committee, who will be holding a hearing on
May 2nd.
May 2nd at City Council Chambers. Tune in. It's sure to be a good one. It's sure to be informational and a fiery one. I wish you luck with that one. I understand the issue. I understand what you said, and I hope our listeners understand and ask the question. Separate but unequal is not fair today.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.